"Tell me," whispered the old mystic, "do you believe your life is random or remembered? There are moments in your life, moments that seem like turning points, yet come without warning. A conversation with a stranger that changes your perspective, a sudden heartbreak that shakes your very foundation, a move, an illness, a dream so vivid it lingers for days. These moments seem spontaneous, but what if they're not? What if everything, every encounter, every joy, every trial, was orchestrated before you even drew your first breath? Tonight, I invite you to step through a hidden doorway, one that leads beyond time, beyond memory, beyond the veil of this earthly illusion. On the other side lies a truth so ancient, so profound, it has been spoken in the caves of yogis, whispered in the temples of Egypt, and etched into the scrolls of mystics across centuries. Before you were born, you chose this life, not as punishment, not as a reward, but on purpose. You are not here by accident. You are here by sacred design. But let us ask the deeper question. Who were you before you became you? Not your name, not your face, not your story, but the essence of you, the witness, the eternal one watching behind your eyes. That part of you has never been born, and it will never die. In ancient Vedic texts, they call it Atman, the soul, untouched by the world. In Gnostic Gospels, it is the divine spark, an echo of God itself. And in countless indigenous cosmologies, it is the dreamer, dreaming this very life into being. But here is the forgotten truth that modern minds often miss. Your soul chose the very circumstances you now face, the family you were born into, the hardships you endure, the talents that whisper to you like winds through old trees, even the struggles that seem unfair, and the wounds that never quite healed. These were not mistakes, they were part of a sacred contract you made before you entered this world of form. Why would a soul choose pain? Why would it choose limitation, or loss, or loneliness? Now we begin to touch the edge of mystery. Because pain carves depth, because challenge awakens sleeping wisdom, because the soul is not interested in comfort, it is devoted to growth. This journey we are about to embark on is not simply philosophical. It is initiatory. You will not leave this path the same way you entered it. You will remember things your mind may have forgotten, but your soul never did. As we unfold this sacred teaching together, we'll travel through ancient temples of knowledge. We'll speak the language of stars, symbols, and soul contracts. We'll decode why certain people arrive in your life like destined messengers or karmic mirrors. We'll reveal the blueprint behind the seeming chaos of your story, and most importantly, we'll give you the tools to consciously align with it. Because here's the secret many fear to admit. Once you remember that you chose this life, you also remember that you can reshape it. No more blaming fate, no more waiting to be rescued, no more pretending to be powerless. This truth does not bind you, it frees you. To choose again, to live awake, to walk as the soul you truly are. So, take a breath with me now. A deep breath, as if you were inhaling stars. Because this is not a video, this is a remembrance, a spiritual reunion, a sacred echo from before time began. The veil is lifting, the scroll is opening, and your soul is ready. Long before the rise of modern religions, before the chisel met stone to carve temples or the first scripture met ink, there existed a sacred knowing whispered from the elder to initiate, from flame to breath. It was not taught, it was remembered. The soul is not born when the body is. It existed long before it descended into this realm, and when this life ends, it continues, carrying with it the weight, wisdom, and vibration of every choice, every lesson, every love. In the temples of ancient Egypt, initiates were taught the sacred science of the Ka and the Ba, two aspects of the soul. The Ba, the eternal essence, was believed to leave the body at death and return to the stars, but only after fulfilling its divine purpose on earth. The soul was not randomly born into suffering or wealth. It was placed with divine intention, like a chess piece on a cosmic board. Further east, in Vedic India, the Upanishads declared, "You are not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience." Here the idea of samskara, the impressions from past lives and karma, The cosmic cause and effect were fundamental. But even deeper was the idea of sankalpa, the sacred intention your soul sets before birth. A vow, a soul mission, often hidden beneath amnesia, waiting to be remembered when the time is right. In indigenous Australian Dreamtime stories, the world was sung into existence, and each person was a singer in that grand symphony. Your name, your path, your struggles, all were etched into the spiritual songlines long before your physical body first cried out at birth. The Tibetan Book of the Dead, or Bardo Thodol, speaks of the between worlds. After death and before rebirth, the soul enters the Bardo, a liminal realm where it reviews its past life and selects its next one based on its evolution. In this sacred place, the soul chooses the parents, the geography, even the potential lessons it will face. But not all choices are simple. Some are chosen to balance karmic debts, others to accelerate growth, still others to play a role in the awakening of others. In Gnostic Christianity, a banned and hidden stream of early teachings, there was a belief in the pleroma, the realm of divine fullness from which all souls originate. Before descending into matter, the soul was said to pass through 7 heavens, each ruled by an archon, each stripping the soul of its divine memory. The descent into earth was not a punishment, but a courageous act. To enter the realm of forgetting in order to remember again. Even Plato, in his myth of air, speaks of souls choosing their next lives before rebirth. In a celestial realm, each soul views different lives like garments laid before them. They choose with guidance, not coercion. And once chosen, they cross the river of Lethe, the river of forgetfulness, so they may live freely, unaware, until the soul begins to awaken. It is no coincidence that nearly every ancient culture, regardless of continent or language, speaks of some version of pre-birth choice. Why? Because the soul's wisdom is older than language. Because some truths don't need to be invented, they only need to be remembered. And yet, in our modern world, this sacred knowing has been buried beneath systems that demand obedience instead of introspection, doctrine instead of direct experience. We are told that we are born as blank slates, as random accidents, as sinners in need of salvation. And so we forget that we are architects of destiny. We forget that we chose this life. We forget the soul's signature that echoes in every synchronicity. But the mystics remembered. The Kabbalists wrote of the neshama, the soul that chose a path before entering the womb, guided by divine light. The Sufis spoke of a last, the pre-birth covenant, where the soul declared before God, "Yes, you are my Lord." The Mayan shamans saw each soul's birth chart as a map, revealing the energetic blueprint of one's mission in this life. And the oracles of Delphi in ancient Greece declared, "Know thyself and thou shalt know the gods." What they meant was not to know your personality, but to remember your origin. So how does this tie to your life now? Think of your soul before birth, seated before a great council, surrounded by guides, ancestors, and beings of light. A scroll is laid before you. On it are written various timelines, possible lives, potential growths, probable pains. You see a life of wealth and ease, but little growth. You see a life of obscurity, but deep spiritual awakening. You see a life where your heart will be broken, but it will awaken your gift as a healer. And in that moment, you choose, not from fear, not from guilt, but from love, for your own evolution, and for what your light might mean to the world. You chose not just your gifts, but your wounds. You chose your family, your culture, even the timing of your birth, because all of it would activate exactly what your soul needed to awaken. Yes, even your enemies. Yes, even your heartbreaks. Because in the higher realms, those who hurt you here may have loved you there. They agreed to play the role that would catalyze your growth. To the soul, Earth is not a punishment. It is a school, a temple, a dream. And when you begin to see life this way, everything shifts. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin to ask, "What is this teaching me?" You stop seeing people as random and begin to recognize soul contracts. You stop fearing death because you realize you've died many times before, and each time you chose to return, not out of karma alone, but out of devotion to your path. This perspective is not meant to burden you with perfectionism or guilt. It is not saying you deserve pain, but rather, it is saying you are powerful beyond your memory. That you are not merely reacting to life, you are co-creating it with sacred intention. This is the mystical turning point. When you no longer see yourself as a victim of fate, but a conscious soul navigating a divine design, a design you helped write. And now that memory is stirring again, that ancient knowing is returning, because the moment you remember that your soul chose this life is the moment you begin to choose again. Imagine just for a moment a realm without time and without gravity, without language, a place where light is not just illumination, but intelligence, where thought and form are one, where souls not clothed in bodies exist in radiant awareness, pure vibration. This is where you began, not as a child, not as a body, but as a soul, ageless, luminous, remembering. In this dimension of light, before your earthly incarnation, you existed fully aware of your eternal nature. You saw all lifetimes as pages in a great book. Some pages were filled with joy, others with pain, but each one had meaningful, intentional, connected. In this pre-birth state, you were not alone. Around you gathered what some call the Council of Light, a group of advanced beings, teachers, guides, sometimes even fragments of your own higher self. These were not judges. They were collaborators, soul companions helping you craft your next human experience. Here is where the sacred planning begins. They asked you, what do you wish to learn in your next life? And you answered not with words, but with resonance. Perhaps you wished to understand forgiveness. Then you may have chosen a life where betrayal would pierce you, so you could awaken compassion deeper than the wound. Perhaps you longed to learn inner strength. Then you may have chosen early hardship, so the flame within could be tested, purified, made holy. Or perhaps you carried a mission, something encoded in your soul for lifetimes, to bring healing, to teach, to awaken others. And for that, you would need specific tools, gifts, challenges, synchronicities, and timing, all aligned like stars on a divine chart. In this sacred preparation, you viewed potential soul contracts, agreements made with other souls who would meet you on Earth, often playing difficult roles to serve a higher function. You saw someone who would abandon you, but their leaving would ignite your independence. You saw someone who would inspire your creativity, then disappear, forcing you to carry it alone. You saw someone who would deeply love you, but only for a season, enough to open your heart and awaken divine longing. These agreements are not made in cruelty, they are made in courage. Because from that high realm, every soul remembers that Earth is temporary, but the growth is eternal. Then came the selection, not just your relationships, but your physical body, your culture, your gender, your genetics, even your astrological blueprint, the map of your soul's intention encoded in the heavens at the moment of your first breath. Your soul reviewed these details with reverence, because the body is not a prison. It is a sacred vessel, crafted to mirror your soul's curriculum. A voice soft or strong, a face that would teach you self-love, a body that might face illness, not to punish, but to awaken compassion for others walking similar paths. Nothing was random. Then, as the final pieces aligned, your soul stood before the veil. The veil of forgetting. It is said that the soul, just before birth, is touched upon the lips by the angel of forgetting, so that it may live freely, not by memory, but by choice. That touch creates the indentation beneath your nose, the philtrum, a small mark of mystery carried by every human face. You forgot your agreements, you forgot the council, you forgot your past lives, your mission, your light. Why? Because this forgetting is part of the great experiment. Only when you forget your divinity can you choose to remember it again. Only when you feel separate can you long for a reunion. Only when you walk in darkness can the spark within begin to shine. But the soul did not leave you without guidance. You brought with you intuition, the quiet voice that stirs when logic fails. Synchronicity, divine winks from the universe that guide you without words. Dreams where the veil thins and you recall truths your waking self forgot. And above all, you carried within your heart a longing, a sacred homesickness that no possession, relationship, or achievement could ever satisfy. Because that longing is not of this world, it is the soul remembering where it came from. It is the soul calling itself home. So here you are now, living in a life that may seem confusing, painful, beautiful, chaotic, all at once. You may feel lost. You may wonder why certain things happened. You may ask, why me? But deeper than all those questions lies a silent knowing, a place within you that whispers, I chose this. Not because I deserve pain, not because I'm being tested, but because there is something here, in this very life, that my soul longed to learn. Now the question becomes, will you reclaim that knowledge? Will you begin to walk this path not as a victim of fate, but as a soul on a sacred mission? That is the true initiation. To rise each day with the quiet courage to ask, what did my soul come here to feel, to heal, to create? To look at your challenges not as curses, but as catalysts. To greet each person not by their mask, but as a mirror, and to recognize that you are not here to escape this world. You are here to transform within it. That transformation begins not in temples or mountaintops, but in your kitchen, your commute, your relationships, your thoughts. Every moment, an opportunity to choose again, to act not from fear, but from the wisdom of your soul. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not what the world tried to make you forget. You are a soul, ancient, courageous, divinely intentional, walking a path you helped design on a planet you chose, at a time when the world needs your light the most. And now, you remember. If your soul chose this life, then why, one might ask, does it often feel so heavy? Why do some people suffer endlessly while others seem to float through life with ease? Why are some born into love while others inherit violence, poverty, or silence? The answer does not lie in blame, but in layers. You see, the soul's choice is not made in a vacuum. It is made within a cosmic tapestry, woven from karma, yes, but also from divine timing, collective evolution, and interwoven soul agreements that span lifetimes. Let us peel back the veil again. Some lives are not about individual transformation, they are about ancestral redemption. A soul may enter a lineage heavy with generational trauma, not for punishment, but to bring light to what has long been buried, to stop a cycle, to offer healing, to become the medicine their bloodline was waiting for. This is not easy. The soul knows it, but that is why such beings, those born into hard beginnings, often carry within them an extraordinary fire. Not ego, but sacred resilience. They were not born to be broken. They were born to become alchemists, turning inherited pain into gold. Other souls may choose a silent mission. They are not here to build empires or write books. They may live quiet lives, often misunderstood. And yet their presence shifts rooms. Their energy calms storms. They carry the vibration of peace, not through words, but through being, like monks in a world without temples. There are also souls who return out of love, not because they must, but because they wish to help. These are the volunteers, the starseeds, the wanderers. They carry memories of other realms. They often feel like strangers here, homesick for something they cannot name. Their mission is not to escape Earth, but to help Earth awaken to itself. But here is the paradox, the great spiritual tension. Once the soul enters the human body, it forgets. It inherits the ego, the fear, the doubt. It feels separate. It feels lonely. And this is where many turn away from their path. They confuse the illusion for reality. They believe the pain is personal, the world is cruel, and their life is meaningless. But illusion does not mean the world is false. It means it is symbolic. Everything you experience is a mirror, a reflection of something deeper. The parent who wounded you may reflect a karmic bond from a past life. The illness in your body may be a soul lesson you agreed to explore. The repeated patterns in your relationships may be echoes of unresolved inner archetypes calling for attention. And here's the mystery. The soul's choices are not always logical. From the higher realm, what looks like suffering may in truth be a profound act of service. Consider this. A soul may choose to be born with a disability, not as punishment but to teach others compassion, patience, presence. A soul may choose a short life, not because it failed, but because it came to deliver a message and then return home. A soul may choose betrayal, heartbreak, abandonment, not to be a victim, but to awaken a strength that could not be accessed any other way. And yet these truths are dangerous if misunderstood. They must never be used to justify cruelty, never to dismiss another's pain, never to silence the need for justice, healing, or change. The soul may choose its life, but we, as humans, must still choose how we respond. Free will is the divine wild card. The script may be written, but it is always being rewritten by how you choose to read it. The most advanced souls are not those with perfect lives. They are those who walk through fire and come out with a gentler heart. They are the ones who face abandonment and still choose love, who face injustice and still choose integrity, who fall again and again and rise softer each time. Because here lies the deepest truth. The soul does not seek perfection. It seeks wholeness. It does not come to earth to be untouchable or enlightened in a cave. It comes to feel it all, the mess, the magic, the shadow, the beauty. To remember who it is not in silence but in the noise, not in comfort but in contrast, and in that remembering, something sacred is reborn. Awareness, choice, love. So yes, your soul chose this life, but every day you get to choose how to live it, with blame or with purpose, with fear or with trust, with resistance or with remembrance. Each moment becomes a fork in the road, each breath an invitation to align again. Not with who the world told you to be, but with who you truly are, beneath the noise, beneath the wounds, beneath the mask. Her soul, infinite, powerful, here by choice, and that knowing, that is the key. Because when you live from knowing that your life was chosen, you begin to choose it back. Knowledge, even divine knowledge, is only powerful when it is lived. You may feel stirred, awakened, even shaken by what we've uncovered. But the deeper question now becomes, how do I live in alignment with the truth that my soul chose this life? Because while the memory is divine, the work is human. We must take these celestial truths and plant them like seeds into the soil of our daily lives, watering them with intention, attention, and sacred practice. Let us begin with the first practice, perhaps the most vital of all. Each morning, before the distractions flood in, sit in stillness. Even 5 minutes is enough. Close your eyes and place your hand over your heart. Breathe deeply. Inhale as if drawing in ancient light. Exhale as if releasing centuries of forgetfulness. Then, speak silently or aloud. I remember who I am. I am not this fearful. I am not this doubt. I am the soul who chose this path, and today I walk it in trust. Repeat this affirmation until your mind settles. Let this become your morning armor, not of defense, but of awareness. It will reshape your entire day. Take time, ideally once per week, to journal from the voice of your soul, not your ego. Ask, why might I have chosen this particular life circumstance? What has this challenge taught me about who I really am? What qualities is my soul asking me to embody in this season? Write as though you are remembering, not imagining. You may be surprised by the clarity that arises. And don't censor yourself. The soul often speaks in metaphors, symbols, and impressions. Let the pen move. Trust it. To reconnect with your pre-birth soul counsel, practice this simple but powerful visualization. Lie down or sit in a quiet space. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Imagine a spiral of golden light above your head. As it descends, you are transported to a circular room, a temple without walls suspended in light. Seated around you are radiant beings, your guides, elders, ancestors, and perhaps aspects of your own higher self. In this space, ask one question: what do I most need to remember about the life I chose? Then listen. Don't rush. Sometimes the message comes as a feeling, a symbol, or a single word. Other times it comes as silence, but even silence has a frequency. Be patient, keep returning. The veil thinks with practice. There is great healing in reclaiming your soul contracts, especially with those who have caused pain. This is not to excuse harm, but to retrieve your power. Here is a practice you can do. Think of someone who has deeply hurt you. Say aloud or write, From the soul level, I recognize that you played a role in my awakening. I release the story. I reclaim my power. I honor the lesson, but I no longer need the pain. This act breaks energetic cords, clears karmic residue, and allows space for new contracts, ones born from your awakened state. The ultimate practice is embodiment. It's easy to feel spiritual in meditation, but your true initiation happens in the marketplace, the kitchen, the arguments, the bills, the laughter. Begin asking yourself throughout the day, am I acting from my soul or my wound? When someone frustrates you, pause. What would my soul see in this moment? When fear arises, whisper, my soul chose this. There must be wisdom here. When you feel joy, anchor it. This is my soul's yes. I will follow this thread. Every moment becomes a classroom, every person a mirror, every emotion a message. This is walking the soul path. How do you know you're on track with the life your soul chose? You'll begin to notice synchronicities, numbers repeating, symbols reappearing, dreams intensifying. These are echoes of remembrance. You may feel drawn to new paths, people, or places, as if something ancient is guiding you forward. Trust it. You may feel the desire to let go of old roles, habits, or beliefs that no longer match your soul frequency. Let them fall away. When you're aligned with your soul's choice, life becomes less about striving and more about allowing. You still face challenges, but you face them with grace, not resistance. Your decisions begin to arise not from pressure, but from inner clarity. Your eternal life may look simple, but inwardly, you're lit like a cathedral. Even on this path, there will be days of forgetting, days when the old fear returns, when doubt creeps in, when the world feels too loud. When this happens, do not shame yourself. Instead, return to your remembrance anchors, a mantra. I walk the path I chose. A symbol, a stone, a feather, a sigil, something sacred to hold or wear. A sacred text. Read passages that stir your soul, whether from the Bhagavad Gita, the Tao Te Ching, or poetry of Rumi. And most importantly, surround yourself with reminders. People, music, art, nature. All of these can become allies in remembering your soul's intention. This is not about escaping life. It's about illuminating it, not about becoming someone else, but becoming who you were before the world told you to forget. Here lies the final, liberating truth. Even though your soul chose this life, you are still choosing. Every time you choose forgiveness over resentment, love over fear, presence over distraction, you rewrite the path, you elevate the story, you create new ripples in the soul web of the universe. Even now, in this moment, as you listen to these words, you are remembering something ancient, and that very remembering shifts your vibration, alters your frequency, and draws new experiences to you. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to be willing to live as though your life is sacred, because it is. Willing to walk as though your every step is guided, because it is. Willing to trust that even your pain has purpose, because it does. And willing to return again and again to the knowing, I am a soul, and this life is my sacred creation. Take a moment now and breathe. Not just a breath of air, but a breath of remembrance. Let it move through your lungs like stardust, soft, ancient, eternal. Feel it ripple through every part of your body, awakening something beyond thought. Because what you've just heard is not new. It is not being taught to you, it is being returned to you. Somewhere inside you, you always knew. You've known it when you looked into the eyes of a stranger and felt the familiarity of another lifetime. You've known it in dreams where you were someone else, yet still you. You've known it in those moments of intuitive knowing, when you followed a path that made no sense but led you to the very door your soul had carved in the dark. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are walking a path that your soul chose, with steps it scripted, with people it invited, with experiences it knew it would shape you into something luminous. And even in your forgetting, you were never lost. You were simply journeying through the shadows of your own initiation. The truth is, Earth is not just a planet. It is a sacred school, a place of exquisite paradox, where the divine chooses to taste limitation and light chooses to wear skin. And you, dear soul, are not here by mistake. You were called. You accepted. You descended. Yes, you forgot, but forgetting was part of the magic, because remembering is how the soul creates meaning. And now, you are remembering. Maybe slowly, maybe all at once, but no longer by accident. Look around your life now. The patterns that repeat, the people who trigger, the dreams you bury, the gifts you suppress. What if all of them were echoes from before your birth? What if your deepest pain is pointing to your greatest gift? What if your strangest longing is the map back to your sacred mission? What if everything you've been through, every fall, every rise, was part of a holy script written in a realm without time? And now, as you awaken, you're not just reading the script. You're becoming the author again. You can change the story, not by force but by alignment. You can meet your life not with resistance, but reverence. You can walk through your day like a living prayer. You can look in the mirror, not with judgment, but with awe. I am the one my soul sent. So here we are. You've walked with me through ancient temples, forgotten teachings, and soul-deep truths. And now you stand at the threshold of your own becoming, not as a seeker, but as a rememberer, because the truth was never lost. It was only buried beneath noise, fear, and time. And now it rises again, like a phoenix from the ash of forgetting. You chose this life, not to survive it, but to transform within it, not to escape it, but to awaken inside it, not to be perfect, but to become whole. And now the path is open, the veil is thinner, the scroll is unrolling again. The only question is, will you walk it as the soul you truly are?